Now we're recording. So we'll go ahead and start with a roll call. David Roth.
Jim Roth. Joe Thompson.
Jennifer Trout.
Hi, Chris.
You made it.
Barely.
Traffic Jones and everything else.
Hello, everybody.
Chris, we just took a roll call on.
Are there just four of us?
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, that's right.
That's right.
So the first thing, we just need to approve the minutes from our October 30th meeting. I assume everybody's had a chance to look them over and
Motion.
Second.
Yeah, didn't
you didn't have any edits, nobody had any edits. Okay. So Jenny made a motion.
Yes.
Jen, or Joe, you seconded. Second approval. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Minutes approved. So just kind of to give everybody update kind of where things are, is, I know this is a crazy time of the year. We continue to work on our respective sections, so basically we have an outline, it's still in a draft. In case we need to edit that or update that as we go along. But we're doing our breakout sessions. So there's two, I'm working with Jerica, Joe and Jim are working together. We've taken the outline, we've broken out sections, that way we can kind of work on different parts of the report. And that's kind of where we're at right now, taking the information, applying it to the outline, and working on drafts, so.
And we have sections drafted already.
Yeah.
I would add that it's not just an outline.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 5 pages of a draft, and there's 14 sections. We'll break it out 14 sections.
Yeah, the outline is about 5 pages. So.
Yep.
That's kind of, it's a nice guide for us, and it, I think, helps us see how to split the work up, and so.
And we have each section assigned to an owner already, and each owner is either working in their individual and or in their subgroups, writing it up.
And as needed, we can meet, but that's kind of where things are at now as far as drafting the report. We did have a couple of individuals potentially that may want to sit down with us and talk to us. That's really preliminary, but we'll keep you updated on that as we get along. That's really, kind of my brief update.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else has any.
Well, one of the things we've been waiting on, wanting to get an attorney involved. We've got Chris and his group, and they put together 3 expansive files. They took all the documents, everything that we had obtained, either from folks here, from the city, or whatever information we had that they wanted to have part of the report. They put it through over 7,000 pages. So I've gone through the 3 different files. And as it says 7,000 pages, but I will tell you this, 30% of that is duplication.
Yeah.
There's studies and reports and emails. I've seen them, they're like 1,225. There's 30 pages of documents that run up to, or 25 pages that run 1,250. Well, I find those again at 1,300. I got the exact same 25 pages. So 7,000, but you gotta go through every one, because as we write the report, we have to reference where that document is. And so I will reference number, 1,225, 1,265, 2,330, whatever it is. So, and there's things like, page 1,254, those are through 1,261. Those are emails related to Nick Warner wanting to try to build on the site or lease on the site. That's the email where Paul says we need to keep them here and engaged. So we're trying to figure out all those components and what's behind that whole email thread. So to say we're just looking at documents, you know, so now you got this, like, okay, what else supports this? So what else is behind this? And so I find more of those informations, you know, pieces, they run all the way back to page, I don't know, somewhere like the 800s section. So it's a lot of work. And
A lot of material.
It's a lot of material. When we write a report, if we put something in a report, we've got to have documentation behind it.
Right.
If it's in a report, we've got to support it.
Right. There'll be some sort of citation to
Of where
the document
and
that
what.
supports.
So.
And we talked about, since there's so much material, like the idea of maybe having 2 appendices at the end, or maybe, you know, we have all these documents, this is all the documents that we've accumulated, that's one appendix. And then another one for, these are the documents that are referenced in my report, in that way. I mean, because like Joe said, you know, there's so many duplications and the document's not gonna, or our report's, I don't think, gonna reference 7,000 pages.
No, like I said.
But by having 2 appendices, then, you know.
Well, I would think that depending on the length of the report, you might want to consider an executive summary. Just takes the main report, distills it down to an executive summary that would likely form the basis of the presentation to council and to the public.
And then just attach that to the appendix and all the documents.
Well, again, I mean, that will be determined once you see the length of it. I think we can come up with a way that just makes, if the report's, you know, between the appendix and with the citations, and it's, you know, 50 pages plus the appendix, it's 100, I think an executive summary would be beneficial to the public and everybody, telling them what they need to know, whatever the findings were that you've made.
Yeah, that's, if you recap that on your email, we said some questions about what we're looking at. We said right here, bullet point 3, look at an executive summary, citations and such, so, all right. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that forward and let you know, you know, obviously we haven't been public, but there's just a volume we've been working on. And because we're working into writing a report, and we've got to have our ducks in a row, we've just got to be structured, we've got to organize it. So, like I said, 7,000 pages, but 30% of those are just duplicates, won't even need to be citing those. And then I don't know why you put in and that's, for some reason, we got documents about the wastewater treatment plant. You know, we got probably, I don't know, 50, 60 pages about, they got their permit, they were awarded their permit for this year, and some emails are not nothing to do with the fire pit, we're talking about the new wastewater treatment plant. That's like, we don't care about that, but somehow they ended up, you know, and some of the information the city dumped to us,
I think
they ended up there, so.
I think when documents got requested, maybe
It just kinda get tight.
we got documents that we didn't.
Yeah, that's a lot of reading for, you know, I'm looking for the end game and like, so it's just nothing but wastewater report stuff. It's nothing to do with us. That's 30 pages of my time gone. So anyway, this is what we're doing.
So, I don't know if anybody else has any comments or.
You're on the committee, remembers? I mean, committee members upgrade, update. Because Joe and I sat down one day in the library here and went over the history. I think we got about all the history we could find on the old to the new.
Yeah.
And then David here, he was able to get a hold of some pictures of the old original.
I reached out to them.
Yeah,
Yeah, part of the task Jim and I have are
that was the easy part.
and looking at how we got to the city commissioners and the fire department, and the recommendation to turn the old water plant into a burn facility. How did that even develop? So I've been looking at a bunch of old city commission meetings, trying to who said what about what, and then trying to capture every city meeting, and this was a topic of conversation in its origins. And again, not just that I had to cite what the meeting date was, who said what, kind of what was there, and I will tell you from what I can see, I haven't seen one that really, most of them have been positive when they were thinking about the burn plant, putting a facility out there at the water plant. I don't know if people didn't realize what was gonna happen or weren't paying attention, but most of the comments from the commissioners were, let's do it, let's roll with it. I don't remember, maybe one or two where they even questioned if it was a problem, so. But that's part of the research so far.
One other item I think is worth noting, Chris, is Pickle announced this today that they hired a new law director.
Okay.
And she will not start until January 6th.
I'm not sure his rank's
What's her
last.
name?
Is it Stillner? Is her last
Is it Jessica?
Jessica Stillner? Am I pronouncing her
Jessica
last?
or Jennifer? Starts with a J.
Stiltner.
Stiltner. Is it Jessica? Okay. And I believe, Mr. Petrizio's last day is 12/31.
Well, he'll be here the 6th though too,
Okay.
bring her on board.
But I just wanted to.
That was very nice.
So we'll touch base with her once she gets started.
So the only other thing I have is, we've seen that Mr. Smith did put in his report, did get to the city, or said he had a report. I don't know if they've seen it. I hear that it's out there. I haven't seen it. I don't know
Yeah.
what the status of that is, but understand that, he did get his results in, so.
That was one item that I wanted to mention, that if Scott's results are finished, if anybody would want to share those with the committee, that would be fantastic, and we could include those in the report with all the other reports.
Yep.
So,
Was Mr. Smith is the person who's done some ground and water testing and air testing this?
he did some testing here in town, where exactly in town, I'm not 100% sure, but
I think if I read part of it right, I think it was 3 different spots. And it was, I know obviously because there was no one from the city to let him onto the grounds. It was, if you guys wanna correct me, please feel free to do so, but it was outside of the water where the burns took place, outside of the building, around the dog park, and then at a residential home.
where's the dog park?
No, it's right across the street.
But Scott,
You don't have a dog.
Yeah, I was like, hey, why don't you know it?
Well, you don't have dogs.
It's really nice.
Scott came in the summer in the environmental symposium. That's his thing.
But was he retained by a group of citizens, by the city, or is he doing this as a volunteer?
As far as I know, volunteer, I've never asked or inquired about, I've never heard of any compensation. I heard it's just that he's trying to support, and help us figure out, help some citizens. They reached out and he's supporting them.
Okay.
But
I drove to East Palestine to seek Scott and other experts for our community.
And has he provided the test results to anybody yet?
We will be having a Zoom meeting that will be open for anyone to join, to go over the results.
Could you email me that
Absolutely.
invitation to that? Thank you.
I was gonna say, if there's a way,
And we're just nailing down the last couple experts, cause we're gonna have Scott on there and a toxicologist, probably a doctor, that sort of thing. So everyone can understand all aspects of what these numbers and these terrible results are. So,
will you share maybe the link to the Zoom meeting?
yeah, I'll be posting it on as soon as we've got the date. It's hard to, you know, we've got holidays coming up and it's hard to schedule, you know, some people that are, time is very valuable. You know, when you're talking about professors and doctors and, you know, experts of that level, I'm just kind of waiting for a date that we all can.
So it sounds like you're hoping for sometime in January.
I was hoping for 27th, but it doesn't look like it's gonna work. So,
But, so, that's all I have. Go on to public comment, or? Yeah. Anybody else says anything? Jimmy, got anything else?
No, I mean, we just talked about history, we got a little more to do.
But with that, yeah. Anybody has public comments or questions?
Well, as you're doing research, are you finding any wrongdoing that concerns you? You don't have to be specific.
I think
general.
if you, you know, these are interesting questions, because if you give an answer, it will presume that you've predetermined some result. So what I think you could say is, if you're comfortable doing, is to say that, you know, what your initial impressions might be, but I wouldn't go into anything that would suggest that you've reached a final conclusion.
Yes, put it out back and say, I've seen some questionable decision-making.
What do you think Longview was in all this? You think it was just, oh, well, it's gonna come down to handshakes and financial gain to the detriment of the health and well-being of the citizens? We're gonna push this through.
Can I answer that? So, you know, as I sit here and I don't live in the city, and kind of came in here late to the game, it seems to me that there's one truth that I think that everybody can agree on, and that is, this should never have occurred at this facility. I don't think anybody disputes that.
Right.
It was not appropriate to engage in testing of lithium-ion batteries. It was unsafe. And I haven't asked, so I don't know if anybody disagrees with that statement. I'm making an assumption that they do. So, once you get to that place, you've got a spectrum. Your question implies that, was there intention, knowing intention to take advantage of a situation for what presumably would have been some type of form of personal profit? Okay, well, we know that's always a possibility. All the way to the other extreme, that you just have some form of flawed human decision-making that doesn't have bad motive to it, it's just people weren't doing the things that they should have been doing. And my sense is, because I certainly haven't seen any, you know, final drafting that we're beginning to edit and tailor, is that the conclusion's gonna be somewhere between these two places, because that's just the way life is. And my sense is, based upon that they're still in the draft phases, that are not prepared to answer that question directly yet.
So we would.
And by the way, I'll also say this, I know that the committee did receive a public records request, I think one, maybe two, so all the information that they have has been produced and it's out there as well. And anybody else who wants to get it, they're more than welcome to make their own requests as well. It's relatively simple to get a link to somebody, so that format is pretty transparent. And I know for me personally, that I certainly would be looking forward to hearing what those test results were, because that's an important piece of all of this. And I think that's something that the city and the elected officials would have to deal with based upon what the findings of those.
preliminary results have already been posted on Facebook, so.
I'm not a Facebook person, but
I've only seen like the screenshot on of an Excel file, it looks like, of some tabulated results, but there's not a lot of context. I'm not an expert, obviously, in this space. But I just don't have context, and there's no one to ask any type of Q&A to. So it's really hard for me to understand what those preliminary results I don't even understand what they mean.
Right,
Yeah,
that's why we're having a Zoom meeting.
yeah, that would be very helpful. I think that's a really good forum, so there can be some more Q&A and some more context of the findings.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure that the experts and the information is presented in a way that nothing can be questioned and it'll all be straightforward with no fluff.
Yeah.
Because I think that the citizens and the community has suffered, and I think that we've suffered long enough.
Yeah.
And I think that it would be nice to have a bit of truth, so.
I don't know, so did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Do you have any more questions? I got another one.
Yeah, when you look back at the commission meetings, to right around when this was proposed, okay? When this was proposed to the commissioners, it seems like it was the only option that was proposed. Well, this is gonna be a fire training facility, that's it, commissioner, yes, 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 yes. We vote that it is gonna be a fire training facility. So they weren't given like, I would say any other options, but fire training facility.
Yeah, I don't remember the date, but I do know early on, it seemed like it came down to destroy it, repurpose the ground, take things down, demolish.
That was one of them.
That was discussed in one of the
Okay.
very early meetings. But
Okay,
after that, I've not heard another meeting where somebody said, I wanna move the dog park over there, or I wanna do something else. I've only heard recommendations for, the battery thing, and I think
yeah, it seems like they were just kind of almost like pigeonholed.
yeah, I don't know if other things came forward and nobody else did, I just could tell you what I've seen, and the only thing I've ever heard was the burn, the battery. Or not battery burn, it was never a battery burn, it was all fire training, not all fire training.
It's supposed to be fire training, yeah.
And it sounded like, and everybody, the commissioners and the fire chief and the assistant city manager in those early meetings, we're looking at it as a business opportunity for the city. An area for us to get revenue and for that site to not be a blight, but actually be a revenue generator and a positive for the city. So the early conversations made great sense. But
I'd like to
What-
interject there. What doesn't make sense, see, I would buy that up until the point of the actual lease. $500 a month rent
Yeah.
and utilities included, what business in town pays that?
Yeah,
That was not a moneymaker.
pays their utilities
there go one of those
That was
questionable
not-
decision makings I brought up earlier.
and offers to put up signage for their
Go
operation,
Piqua,
their operation.
go Piqua.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a little speculative.
There was an
Friends.
interview with Justin Sommers, who is the assistant city manager, and if I remember what he said in the interview, it was something along the line. Obviously, they weren't sharing the lease pricings at that point in time, now we know what we know. And I think additionally, what he added, they did a survey that was around economic growth and development in 2016. So he was discussing the survey results, and then he was also sharing that part of this was around the economic development of bringing citizens into Piqua, so then they'd be eating at our restaurants, staying at hotels, that the money would be.
Once again, he said
I'm not
he was
saying I
gonna
agree
bring
with that.
500 people. We didn't
I'm not
have
saying-
one commissioner up there that didn't think this through. If we're gonna have 500 people show up for training, where were they gonna park out there? Where would 500
Yeah.
people fit?
I'm not saying I agree,
So I
I'm
just,
just giving
my thing is,
more
there may,
evidence of.
there may have
what
been some
was
questionable, it seems like there's a lot of questionable things, but what was the motive behind that? I don't really care at this point. I
That's a good
think
question.
when things have been done, they've been done and the damage is done. So who's gonna make that right?
Yeah, we're living in hindsight, unfortunate in all this, but I think, truth be told, some of the deeper questions you guys have asked in our meetings and who did what is responsibility and nefarious stuff, this committee's never gonna be able to get to some of those answers. We just won't, we don't have the subpoena power. I know they said that subpoena power, that's bullshit. I could subpoena anybody and they can say, no thanks, Joe, have a great day. And what do I got?
I personally know some people from the city that are waiting for one because they want to talk to you, but they won't on their own. So I feel like that's sad, because there's people that want that. And then
Can I add one thing though? I do think it is important for us, part of the resolution is how did this happen? So we have to go back and ask ourselves, how did this happen? What was the mindset of the city at the time? And it is important, it doesn't make it right or wrong, it doesn't justify what happened, but we have to, that's why we have to rehash
Cause
this.
it seems a little more than a community that was strapped and starving for economic development and some $500 a month?
Yeah.
Gee.
Well, I mean, but there's other dynamics at play here too, which is I believe that there was a permit that was required with the Ohio EPA involved.
Yeah, they got the wrong person.
Don't even have the right permit.
Was there appropriate state agency oversight? Were they doing the things they were supposed to do? I mean, there's a lot to unbundle here in some ways, and, you know, sometimes the answers can be very simple, sometimes they're not. And,
Are you gonna unbundle those? Do you intend to unbundle all of these things, or are we just gonna drive on over them and?
well, I think that if they're appropriately, if they need to be addressed, they will be addressed.
Okay.
And, but keeping in mind, this is a citizens group that has certain limited powers, that there's an intention to bring these things to light. You have an interest in that. I'm sure that if this committee does something that you find to be deficient, you're gonna share your view of that.
And I'm glad that people are aware of that.
I'm a little confused about one thing. At the last meeting, you specifically said that the environmental concerns and health concerns were not the purview of this committee. But now you've just shown some interest in Scott Smith's results, and you said those would be important to know. Why are those important now?
Well, because it may not be important to know for this committee per se, but those are matters of public concern for all the citizens. And as a part of a transparent process, I think everybody needs to know those things. Now, the role of the EPA in this is something that I think I've seen some documents related to that, and I think that would need to be addressed. So I don't think my comments are exclusive.
Find out if Amber Hicks had the authority to sign off on this. Cause I asked about that and it's unclear. Doesn't seem like she did.
That seemed like it should have gone up to the next level. Not to
Well,
mention, she
I don't-
wasn't even in our region, she was from over in Delaware, and
Yep.
and what they originally presented to her, I'm not sure how much she knew if that's exactly what they were gonna do here, but anyway, somehow, somewhere, what they started in Delaware and what we got, it expanded to a point where it was a lot worse here.
So this was 2017, right? That's all. Was that an election year? I don't know.
I don't know.
Because I'd be interested to see if there were any, 16 was?
Well, 16 was a presidential election year, but staggered terms of council, there could have been council people running, you just don't know, you gotta look at the schedule, but.
Yeah, because there might have been incentives for this type of technology to be. Yeah, from our government, like incentives from our government to institute this type of technology. And then,
Smart stuff.
and then little communities like ours, say, hey, that piece of the pie looks good. We could really use that money to build our infrastructure and, fund our public utilities, fire department, all this other stuff. And so they go with it and buy into it. And I think that's a little disingenuous, to, if that was something that did occur, like I said, that's gonna be hard to look into and come up with. But you could at least look into around those years and see, I guess maybe it was Obama back then, and just see if there was any environmental incentives being pushed out around those years for communities to take advantage of.
Voting on environmental.
Well, there might have been
Like some grants, some incentives.
grants and,
Greenfield, brownfield, grayfield
like environmental grants, environmental technologies, EPA grants. Wasn't there a push for green energy at that, like several years ago, you know, all that type of stuff. It was,
Yeah.
I think it was in the news, like, we're going green, we're going, and all these businesses are gonna get green energy tax incentives, and I just think there was a lot of talk about that, several years back. And maybe that has a push, you know, an incentive to do with this whole thing. And I also have been reading on, the battery technology is being adopted, supposedly, around Kentucky. They said Kentucky's supposed to be like the battery capital
The world.
of the world.
As we were supposed to be,
Yeah,
but
okay. Supposedly we were supposed to be, I don't know. Well, quit joking.
I'm not.
Okay, I don't know.
Do you know what our slogan is, DeWine? We're leading the charge.
I like it, fine. Okay.
But
I think there's two schools.
It's like anything. The battery, everything is a battery today is a lithium ion battery, pretty much. And they kind of jumped into this without doing a lot of research. And we do a lot of research after we get into things to see, you know, after we discover issues or problems in the world. The next technology is gonna come out, we're gonna end up with the same thing. You know, and I, you know, did they look at it as an opportunity to become the leader in the world here? You know, because they had people from Norway here, Sweden here, South Korea was here. A lot of, and look at the big, look at the big people in the lithium ion battery area. I mean, Tesla uses tons, they all have money, you know, so they're pushing for things to get things done, but I think initially it might have started out as a potential gold mine
For battery technology.
for battery testing and technology and things like that. And because I know, I mean, we had the report, I don't know if it was in our group, our packet or not, or I read it someplace, but New York City has done the same testing as was here, their fire department, with the same companies that were here, the same firms. And it's a really long, comprehensive information packet from them that talked about the different avenues and dangers and pluses and minuses and things like that.
So to frame the issue, Joe, I think you mentioned this. So when the initial discussions were evolving over what to do with this property,
Yeah.
the impression I have is that people landed on the idea of a training facility,
Fire training
fire
facility.
training facility.
With Bowling Green State
But at
University.
some point, it changed into a testing facility.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
A joint thing. I mean, more testing than training, but it was still there.
But the original discussions
The original
about the
discussion was
facility
training.
did not include the idea of it, using it as a testing facility, a laboratory of
Mhm.
sorts.
Well, I think in the agendas or the minutes for some of those early commission and planning commission meetings, there was,
No, they mentioned battery.
It was from day one.
I mean, it's.
think
It was
they
day
mentioned
one, they had those power walls shipped here before we even had a signed resolution.
That's kind of how it started. It was
Shit.
like Tesla,
Keep it real.
I think it was Tesla,
It was
power,
Tesla.
wall power packs. or something like
14
that.
power walls,
But in
first
the,
burn.
in the minutes for the commission and planning commission meetings, there was briefly mentioned like research. Like, I forget exactly what the words.
Yeah, I thought it was, they said testing, so it kind of like misled the commissioners. They didn't mention anything about burning. That's why they said, the people that were on the commission at the time, did this mean burning? You know, they were like confused.
Well, this thing jumped off really quick, so 12/5/17, the first email between Chief Paul Schneider, BGSU, Gary Gonzalez, Dylan Zartman. Hey, I understand you guys wanna visit our location here in State Route 66. On 12/11, they have a site visit with Dylan Zartman, BGSU, Gary Gonzalez is there, and they're like, hey, we have an urgent need for some battery testing with D and VGL is engaged with Tesla. Tom Bensman and his group, they wanna move forward. They wanna get testing done by 11:30. Or by 1:30, by January 30th the next year, they wanna do some testing. So this is 6 days later, they're on the site. The next day, the chief engages with EPA and Amber Hicks in Delaware about how the process goes to get EPA. Then 12:15, chief asks for a one-page summary from Tom Bensman and that group, so he can send it to Rabka. And Dallin says he will have Nick send the detailed summary, that's first indication of a Nick Warner. In 12:19, chief emails Tom at BSF and Dallin and Amber Hicks and Jason Fisher, and they say you need to go and use Rabka. So by 12:29, chief has turned his first application into burn, and by
In what year?
1/4, Rabka approved, Jason Simon and Craig Butler approved the burn by 1/4, and then it looks like
What year?
2018, within 5 weeks.
But did any of that come before the city commission?
I don't see any emails about
They
it.
burned what on the 18th, 1/16, 18 was the one meeting.
There's a lot of people copied on the emails, I don't remember who, but.
Yeah, because they pulled
city
it off
managers
YouTube,
and other
and we
folks
were all
on
like, what
emails.
happened to the meeting on 1/16, 18?
That's an excellent summary, Joe.
Well, thank you, I'm just telling you, I've been in business a long time. You do something that fast, and it's the first time you're ever doing it, you're going to screw it up. Somebody needed to take a step back and say, wait a minute,
Whoa.
I don't care what your
Yeah.
testing dates are, we need to understand.
Yep.
I think the MOU was drafted during this period, it was a whole
Yeah.
series of events that just launched off way too
Too
fast.
quick.
and we didn't have
There
any-
was no resolution then, but yeah, they didn't think this one through, they just pushed it, we gotta hurry up, here come the power walls, we already shipped them.
But even before the January 16th commission meeting, there was a planning commission meeting. And
They wanted to change the
I think
verbiage and
it was-
everything.
I think it was unanimous. And there were only 2 individuals, to my knowledge, that came forward during public comment during the planning commission meeting and had questions about how this might affect the property values, if I'm remembering that right. But it was within the economic objectives of the city, so I think it was a unanimous vote. And then
Yeah.
it went to the city
It
commission,
was.
and you're correct, it was unanimous for them as well.
Yeah.
And then Joe's right, it happened like right quick.
That's why the community's upset. How did these people approve this? No questions.
Well, we were let down
You
by
know?
the EPA too. That's
Yeah.
for sure.
Everybody, we were let down by
We need
everybody.
guides,
Bowling
yeah.
Green,
Go
let's not
forward.
forget them.
So there's a question of due diligence, was
Yeah.
enough due diligence really done?
Have you guys looked into what kind of possible gain that BG made from this? Either financial or, educational, or I'm sure there had to be some financial gain BG experienced through this
To an
test.
extent, they've shut us down, we have to know exactly what we want from them,
Oh,
otherwise they won't give it to us, it's too
Well, it's a good thing we
It's too
have a
broad
bunch
of
of
a
stuff,
request. If somebody has it, that's awesome, but Nancy got shut down, she tried, she got a lot of stuff, and then she went back and never returned, and sent you some letter. And some other lady got involved, and they were like, just too broad in scope. So,
It's when you rewrite your ask. You reframe it, you rewrite it, you narrow it down.
it's one thing.
I think I saw something online where it was it might have been a commission meeting or it might have been another type of meeting. But Kevin, is Carnegie,
Cringy, I call them cringy.
Kevin.
It sounds better.
Craney, I think it is.
anyway,
Cringy.
they questioned him and he said, is this gonna affect the city in any adverse type of way? And then he answered, no, this is all plume smoke. Well, what happens to plumes that go up in the sky? We all learned through East Palestine what happens
Right.
when plume smoke goes up in the sky. It has to come down somewhere. And according to Mr. Lang, it hung over Swift Run Lake because of an inversion cloud type anomaly. So, I mean, that's where we get our drinking water supply from. You know, that's very, very, very concerning.
The resolution had 7 questions, but you're not limited to those. Are you expanding into other focuses such as the money trail? How did the city make money? How was money shuffled back and forth from these companies, Bowling Green, to pick one?
We do have that incorporated in the outline.
Yeah, that's part of what we're looking into the outline. But to launch, this is a great question, Nancy, to launch off, to get the report started on the baseline, we focused on the 7 questions, and once we get those answered, get the report there, then we get out the next step, and then, to finish my one comment, is aim to get some of the questions that you guys have and people involved. I think somewhere, somehow, if that's gonna be a lawsuit, somebody's gonna be deposed, because I just don't see anybody giving us honest answers
Another thing about the batteries,
of that.
the batteries themselves, when we would go out there, they were about the size of 2 LG refrigerators, one stacked on the top of
The
another.
ladder didn't even reach.
Yeah,
all the
you
way.
couldn't even,
Guy pulled himself up from the ladder.
what type of battery is that? Was that just the containment system? And there's actually car batteries stacked in that containment system? Or was that an entire
I have a
battery?
video, I'll show you.
Okay,
That's a great question, but the city never required a bill of lading, nobody ever recorded or took pictures or documented what was brought in. Nobody at the city has that.
you know, if that was a battery within itself that big,
Yeah.
that's something that would be akin to something that would power a large, like solar power. Like
From my understanding, Nick, those were used in submarines and
Submarines?
aircraft
What are we doing with submarine batteries here?
for military around the world.
Really?
Yeah.
One person who answered that question is a third party who was doing the burning out there, he has that information.
I think Norway was big into naval batteries.
So marine battery.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what we've heard.
Solar systems, well, energy systems like submarines and shit.
So it started out kind of small with Tesla ball batteries.
And then we have Korea coming in. That great.
And then we have South Korea and all these visitors from Chrysler, Daimler, whoever else, Mr.
BMW,
BMW,
Mercedes-Benz,
Mercedes, whoever else Mr. Oppendorf mentioned at one of the commission meetings.
Amazon.
I don't know if he mentioned.
So a lot of private citizens that we can't get access to, they won't talk to us for fear that they're gonna be involved in a lawsuit.
Yeah.
So they are not gonna speak to us.
Mhm.
They have no reason to. So that's what I mean. So those are great questions. But unfortunately, people have those answers or private citizens and we can't.
Yeah, I mean, those car companies, what do they have to do with fire training? I don't.
Well, I think it's just part of this huge push to electric vehicles and
Yeah, but, I mean, it was designated at the very onset, fire training facility.
With the very first, day one they were burning, so.
And so,
now, I feel like if you look at those agendas on the commission meetings and planning commission meetings, I mean, briefly talking about
They used that as the
That's your
loophole
testing,
in the
yes.
law, the Ohio Revised Code, to get the permit. They had to use firefighter training as the excuse, because if you're a firefighter, you can burn anything you want.
yeah, so they're
That's why.
operating under that permit, that's why they had to get the new permit.
There you go.
At some point, they incorporated the word testing, burn training and testing.
So it's easier to keep things under the radar.
Yeah, call it firefighter training, you're fine.
Wasn't the first actual firefighter training April of 2024, or
Yes.
whenever they had the open house.
Yes,
That was the first actual
Training,
firefighter training
and that is
session.
when the 20-year contract started on that building.
Yeah, a week prior to the EPA arriving, they stake their claim in the ground and say,
We got a
no,
building now,
no, we got
Fire
a
training.
burn building, now we're legit, we were a fire training facility all along, you know, EPA, there's nothing, look.
we got logos on it,
Yeah, we got logos, we got a door
we got
that's
a
on
sign,
it, it makes us legit.
right?
No, you're in a defunct water treatment facility. If you wanna build out your proper fire training facility, you know, with all the bells and whistles, then
I
let's
feel
go
like you
that.
need to talk to the
then
city
that's-
too about the run, where everything drains out there, you know, how everything, that whole property drains to our river.
I think that's beyond the scope of what this committee's.
Well, I think though, if you've got recommendations, maybe recommend that the city does not let
If
that
soil
property drain
results
out
are
there.
Well, but
why wouldn't drainage be?
But you've got this round, I'm gonna call it, community meeting with test results and everything else. It seems to me that's the logical place where those pieces of the discussion would come out.
But you guys are supposed to do recommendations, right? So
Well,
that could be a recommendation.
that-
We don't
yeah,
feel
so-
like this property should drain into the river.
I think that there is, the fact that you're here, the fact that you're doing the things that you're doing means that there are a group of concerned citizens who want more than what this committee is just going to do. This is gonna tell you how we got here. You're talking about what, if anything, needs to be done to fix it. You're indicating that the preliminary information you have suggests that needs to be done. But that sure as heck is way beyond anything this committee can do.
I don't think soil results have anything to do with drainage of soil.
Well, what I'm saying is
That's what I'm
that this
getting at.
committee isn't gonna hire experts, they don't have any funding for that.
It's
They
built
do
in.
in the
It's
resolution.
actually built in.
How many times do I have to remind you? Have you read the resolution?
I just pulled it up and I'm gonna pull it up again.
It has money in there for experts, actually.
Yeah.
And as a
My
committee,
understanding is-
without Chris giving his opinion, aren't you concerned about the toxic results and the drainage of the soil? Are you limiting yourself?
But you
Just the
also have
seven
two people that
questions.
said it's clean.
Well, wait, well, first of all,
And that satisfies
Scott
you?
Phillips
That's the
and
extent
Jeff
of your
Lang
research
both said
skills?
it's clean.
Who did?
Jeff Lang and Scott Phillips, and I can show you
No.
video.
Scott was talking about his
No.
property.
That probably makes you happy, doesn't it?
Yeah, cause they say they're experts.
Their residents.
well, it seems to me that if you've got additional testing that hasn't been produced yet, that
And I don't
that
believe
information
that's
is
accurate, so I
relevant
wouldn't
to
make
the
statements
discussion,
like
but
that.
nobody can reach any conclusions until they see that.
I mean, for our report, we wanna have these reports to discuss them in our report, yeah, absolutely.
Now, you do have the ability to go back to commission and ask for additional funds. So,
Yeah.
you know, if you shouldn't so need them to do,
Remediation.
to do extra things within your
You
commission.
know, you really
Right.
could help out the city, because if you love the city, you should probably want them to not be sued, right?
I don't know what's,
It'd be great if they
I've seen
clean
a
up so they
report
don't
that the
have to be
city has.
sued. You know what I mean?
I've seen
We have to
emails.
sue everybody to get that shit remediated out there. I guess this was gonna have to happen. But see, we were just kinda hoping that maybe it didn't have to get to that point. You know, and that a few good citizens, a few good men could get in there, do the right thing, you know?
So do you believe that the committee is waiting for a recommendation, or the council's waiting for a recommendation of this committee that says you need
No, I believe you guys
to
were
hire
created to
experts to read?
patronize me.
No, I'm curious, okay, it does talk about, the
Okay.
committee can make requests for certain things. But fundamentally, that money comes from the public treasury. That contract would be between the expert and the city to go and do whatever the scope of work would be.
I feel the government needs to pay for the remediation,
I'm asking something different.
okay?
Okay, because you jump to that there absolutely needs to be remediation. that I don't know if there's anything that definitively says that there is contamination there. There's no question the process of burning lithium-ion batteries can create contaminants, but whether or not that's led to contamination.
Well, I know what happened to me physically, that I've had thorough documentation on, and some other folks, and you know, that with the testing results and, yeah, I would love nothing more than the city to take this seriously.
And so there's pieces to this, it seems to me. They are clearly engaging,
Right.
and this report will be done
You know what,
soon.
we were wanting to rip you guys apart, so you did a good job, I think. Liked your summary. Even your input was kind of welcome. David, great updates, Jared, great updates. But I feel like, I don't know, like my bullshit detector is going off, like, you know?
And that's fair, and I'm not gonna try and argue that
Okay.
you shouldn't.
But it seems like you're talking out both sides of your mouth
But
on these
there's a
toxic results.
No, there's a
Yeah.
process that has to be
And I
followed.
think you're talking too much, because it's really the committee that should be doing this research, and they can pull you in when they ask for your advice, but you just dominate the conversation.
Well, I'm sorry you feel that
I
way,
don't think so.
but I've got the most experience,
Well,
I've got the most
He's a
experience in how
plant
these
here.
processes work. This is a process, I'm not influencing an outcome, I'm helping
You're
you through a
trying.
no, I'm not.
No,
If you wanna reach that conclusion, you can reach that conclusion. The fact is, there's a process. This committee's gonna have a conclusion.
But you're
And
telling them what the process should be. They should be the ones deciding that.
the process is a universal process. Gather information from all sources, read the information, prepare a report, put it out there for people to make the conclusions that they have. You have people on this side, if you
And
wanna
you
create.
shouldn't be eliminating topics.
There's been no topic that has definitively been eliminated. When
You
we met-
tried.
No, when we
Last
met
week.
last week, I said, we're in the middle of a process, where it goes is to be
You
determined.
said the environment
but
is
it-
not the purview of this
but
committee.
it is, can this committee say, this should be looked into?
Yes, they can.
Should they?
And they should.
Well, should they
Read
be
the
the one?
resolution again.
Yeah, you don't even know
Again, you
if they have
gotta
money.
you have to get there first, and the process hasn't played out.
Again, talking
You
too
have-
much.
No, you're the one who's challenging me, so I'm responding.
I'd like to hear from the committee, but you dominate
I
the
don't think
conversation.
they need to hear from them, because I think they're gonna agree with me.
I'm here to hear the committee. Does the committee have anything to say on this?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but let me ask you. And I'm not being humorous, I'm being serious. So if you drop a rock and a feather at the same time, which one hits the ground first?
The vacuum, both.
Exactly. That's science. Global warming, does it exist, does it not exist? I got arguments on both sides. I don't think, we're not experts, we can't opine on the results of the test, because I don't know what the hell they say. I see big numbers, I
That's
see
why
little
you
numbers.
consult with experts. It's in
You
the
guys have a
resolution.
budget, you
It is
can take that little,
anticipated
you
that
can
you will
take
need
that.
experts.
We weren't assigned to figure out if this is contaminated or not contaminated.
No,
No,
that's
as
the
citizens,
experts.
How did we
and
get
that would
here?
be a wonderful.
That is a city commission's decision.
So you're
They
not
need to
concerned with
decide-
the
I'm
toxicity?
very concerned, but it's not our decision. The commissioners have to say,
But
we want to pony up the money, we're gonna take this bull by the horn, and we're going to do testing. We're the city commissioners, this is our responsibility. You guys are tasked with 7 things. How did you start burning?
You're not
And
limited
what
to the
happened?
7.
We are, because they
No,
are.
you
One
are
of the
not.
7 is recommendations, could
They
you
have the
just
funding.
say
Brief
in there?
in the resolution.
Do you think they're gonna give us
Prove it to me.
$50,000 for testing of the land?
Okay, can I-
Do you think we're gonna get that?
You
God,
might.
no, God, no,
Have
they
you
won't do it.
asked?
They won't do it on their own.
You don't
Nancy,
need
they're gonna-
We can't use subpoenas, so
What
we
was
can't
wrong with
use
the
You don't
first
need
step? What was wrong with the
$50,000,
test you guys
you could get answers with 5 to 10, which you've already paid
Isn't
to them.
isn't that the purpose of the Zoom meeting that you were hoping to have on the 27th?
My question hasn't even been answered, I just wanted to know, you were supposed to come up with one of the 7 questions, come up with recommendations. Could one of the recommendations be, let's not drain this freaking facility straight into our river that goes to the Gulf of Mexico.
I don't know that. I can see, the
And
testing,
then that's an
There's only
answer,
one
so thank
testing
you, at
out
least
there.
we're getting somewhere, cause
there's
at
only one
least one
testing that's been out there, I
answer.
don't see anything else.
Let's speak to this contamination, these contamination results real quick, because I went to,
Whose contamination results?
yeah, I'll tell you. I went to this special.
You go out there and scoop your
Well,
own shit, set
WSP
it
did
off.
it for the city.
I did go to a
These things are
special,
forever chemicals, they don't
special
go away.
commission meeting, with the fire department there, and the results were presented, at that meeting, okay? They said there was high levels of arsenic found in the soil.
What's the
They said-
standard for this area?
No.
That's what they
The other is, we live in a
It's
high
two
area.
different
of
kinds, look
arsenic.
it up, get an expert,
I'm sorry, you look it up.
I did,
Arsenic
Correct
is
you.
high in Ohio and this
Correct you.
area.
I'm just telling you what it said.
Yeah, you're right though, you're
Okay.
right.
And then it went on to disclose that the highest amount of contamination was found in that chlorine room where they did a lot of the burning, a lot of the smaller scale testing, I'm assuming. So I don't know what the mitigation practices are gonna be for that chlorine room. I don't know if they're gonna tear it down, but it's just, I look upon this as maybe like people that come in and remove asbestos. You would have to have something on that level and have a contamination crew come in, encapsulate all that, and take it apart and transport it appropriately and dispose of it appropriately. And I'm curious as to whether you guys have found anything as to where all of the materials were disposed of. Cause I know we
Yeah, you don't need
used,
to nosy.
I'm gonna stand now, cause I don't like
I
you
don't
to talk
care.
to me.
I don't care.
there was a
Okay.
big Hemmelgarn trash receptacle out there. But the city evicted them, you know. I believe improperly evicted them because they allowed them to, dismantle their stuff. So let's have a third party come in and dismantle that. Somebody that's well versed in this arena, let's have them come in and mitigate the practices and dismantling everything. Because then you don't have the worry of any malfeasance or, any ill play or anything like that.
So I want to address the issue of the money. I've got the resolution pulled up. Section 5 of the resolution, the city liaison shall be assigned to the committee by the mayor to assist in the retrieval of documents, answer questions, arrange interviews with personnel, etc. The committee will further have the ability to engage with third-party experts or counsel as necessary with the approval of the city commission. So, because they control the purse strings, the requests can be made, but the city commission would have to then appropriate the funds for that.
I think the community would respect and appreciate the ask.
Right, and what I think, you accuse me of speaking out of both sides of my mouth, which I'm not doing, but to your point, if this committee sees the need that other work would need to be done that would require the expenditure of money, just generally, I would expect that they would make a recommendation to the city commission that that money be appropriated for whatever that purpose is, without saying what it is, because they're still in the process. And that's all I'm saying, there's a process here. The process has been furthered because now in the drafting stage, another component of that process is you have additional information that you're going to be sharing in a public forum that will have some relevance to what this committee's doing. Where that information leads this committee is to be determined. Again, it's the process. And I don't think that the process is precluded by anything because it depends on what they find. That's all I'm trying to say.
The city approved $25,000 towards the end of this calendar year. Are you alone gobbling that all up, or is some of that also for experts?
That's, again, that's gonna be for them to decide when the draft is complete.
Why do they have to wait till the draft is complete? You need experts as you go along.
They're,
No,
you know
we
what,
need
they're
to-
going through their process, okay? I misspoke,
Well,
you're
let's hear
right.
what the chairperson has to say.
Well, we need to get through this draft of the report, because I'm planning on more questions coming up as we get closer to the finishing of the report. Now, like you're saying, you know, if it becomes necessary for us to make a recommendation based, you know, if we can see Scott Smith's results and compare all these results, you know, maybe, yeah, we'll find something and a recommendation does need to be made to the city commission, but at the end of the day, like Chris is saying, it's the city commission that's gonna make these decisions. I mean, we don't have any ability to say, we want this expert.
You do too.
We can ask for it. Commission can
What
turn
really
us
gets
down.
me is the taxpayer has footed the bill
Yeah,
every step of the way,
you're right,
through the beginning to where we are right now.
yeah.
The taxpayer has funded every bit of this. And you're talking about everything from having city workers come down from the water plant to help with their stuff, paying their Wi-Fi, signage, you know, on and on and on, okay? We have footed the bill all along the way, and I think that's terrible. I think some other people higher up in our community should take a pay cut, you know, and kind of like, yeah, give back towards this issue, because
Maybe leave.
they might be
How about just leave?
they might be culpable of causing a lot of this
Leave
to
jobs.
go down, you know.
Get a job somewhere.
If you have a 20-year contract before your eyes, you know, you better read into that before saying, well, I'm just gonna re-up and sign this for another 20 years and go on before, you know, you're looking at any repercussions, you're not looking at the business across the street from you. You're not looking at the source water that's above you, you're not looking that there's a park across the street from you. You're not looking that there's a bicycle path above you. You know, it's just ridiculous, totally ridiculous. If they wanted to do this in a gravel pit somewhere, I would be more comfortable with that. I don't know how feasible that would be. But I'm just saying, they could have kept this away from our parks and recreation and our water supply. And those people that were working down there from our water department plant, those people who thought their jobs were threatened if they wouldn't come down and work for this company, why they didn't step forward and say, wow, there's plume smoke going over Swift Run Lake, and we draw our water supplies from Swift Run Lake. I don't know why they wouldn't step forward and say, listen, I want to go back to Kevin Herman. He did mention in one of the commission meetings, he said, no, this is just plume smoke. Well,
Do you know what plume is?
plume smoke goes up.
Those
it comes
particles, you
down.
know why you see that? Those particles haven't been fully combusted.
We're just kind of going around in circles and circles, so I think we make a motion.
What is stopping you from contacting Scott Smith directly?
Sure, Scott.
And after the last meeting, you and Jill were hot to trot to talk to Alicia and
That's true.
interview her.
Neither one
And
of
she
you
made
reached
it
out.
clear that she was available. Did you follow through on that?
You talk
About what? I'm sorry.
About following through with talking to Alicia. You wanted to interview her after the last meeting, we talked about it. You
We've
were
had
hot to
interviews.
try to do it.
It's on a public video.
What?
I'm not saying you're wrong, I just
We
don't
weren't
remember the
talking to you.
conversation.
Thank you.
In the other longer room.
My
I
pleasure.
don't remember the conversation. I'm not saying you're wrong, I just don't remember that.
Well, you're not interested in, she's saying she's available.
I'm more than available. I've been waiting since the last meeting for you all. And I haven't gotten any kind of letter with the little cute little logos or nothing. So, when you guys say that we're waiting on documents from the public, we're gonna reach out to you, always
So
gonna
you're only
reach out
gonna
to
give
you.
them the documents that you have if they ask for it?
That's not what I said, that's not what she said.
But we had open interviews and
I'm not opposed to sharing information.
Will you share the information you have with this committee? I'm asking now.
Well, I mean, I think we could discuss that. How about you reach out to me and we'll talk? I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to talk to you.
What's your email again?
Safepiquet@gmail.com.
You've emailed me before, haven't you?
I have,
Okay.
yep. I think I even followed up on that. So, yeah,
Well, I think you made a public record.
yeah, I did follow up and you wanted to.
If you guys can review the questions that were asked tonight, and I don't know when the next meeting is it gonna be a Thursday from now?
no,
No? Okay, so at the next meeting, maybe watch this back and say, well, that was a good question, let's revisit that and then get them an answer. And so next meeting, we can go over some of this stuff and maybe we'll have more clarity.
Have you sent out any letters for interviews? I mean, I know you have like a rubric and
No,
everything.
as David shared, is that there are ex-city employees as well as current and existing people that were involved that we've already reached out to start those interview requests. And I hope that those come through, because that will give us a lot more information to a lot of just the missing pieces right now.
Is there
That's what you said a month ago.
No, I didn't say anything about interviews a month ago. A month ago, I said that we need to really sit through the information to
To
understand
find the gaps and then do the interviews.
And that's now what we're doing, is trying to conduct interviews, so staff.
So you've sent out.
Are there any,
No,
are there any statute of limitation dates that will pass while this report is taking so long?
You go either way.
I would ask them to not be made aware of it.
Okay. Do you know what the last day to file, like, let's say everyone in here wants to file a lawsuit. What's the statute of limitations for that, where the date be?
Don't answer the question.
I'll make a motion to adjourn, we're not getting anywhere, it's still around in circles.
Well, I would just say that I appreciate everyone coming tonight.
I believe it's 2 years, but I would just like an expert to confirm that. Is it 2 years from exposure?
That's Ohio
I'm not
law.
gonna answer the question.
You're the attorney.
I'm not the attorney for this group, I'm representing this committee.
Which I'm asking a
Right,
question.
I'm not providing, that's legal advice, I'm not your lawyers.
It's just Ohio law.
I'm just asking this stuff, just a standard thing.
Jared, how are you coming along on that timeline that you were working on?
Yeah.
Are you still,
Yeah, and we have the timeline and we're working and putting it into the electronic format of the draft, so that way it's all electronified.
you think it could fill that role there?
It could, it'll probably be on that.
It probably hasn't changed a bit since it was
Really?
in here.
It can fill beyond that role?
Right,
That's
right, you're right.
everybody's opinion,
Absolutely not, but okay.
but that's your opinion.
I'm
So
asking,
there's a
it's not
motion
an
on, there's a
opinion.
motion on the floor.
It's got a question mark at the end of it, so that's
Well,
not an
it's fine.
opinion.
There's a motion on the floor.
I'll second the motion to adjourn.
Alright, we'll call it a.
Let's do it. Well, you gotta take a voice vote.
Okay,
All in favor? Aye.
I,
Well, I'm glad they all got to see me tonight.
We appreciate you guys coming out.
Thank you, thank you.
David, I'd love to get a letter. I'd love to meet with you and share things.
I'm looking forward to hearing what Scott has to say.
But not Alicia.
Huh?
But not Alicia.
No, they should too, yeah. I do not.
you're not allowed,
Amazing.
you know it?
Yeah, Alicia wants to.
You and your mother.
You tracked me down. You stopped me from leaving the room.
So.
So you will talk
we've had
about
discussions on
getting
this
together
every day.
with Alicia.
David,
But you don't know.
I don't remember that.
I don't either, but.